Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday hearings of the Commission. Almost said Wednesday. I'm trying to push the week to finish quickly. Before we start our proceedings, we have the prayers from the Imams. Imam C, you have the floor, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين وإن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر وسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Shukran, Imam C. Bishop, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Lord God of mercy and of grace, for whom justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne, mercy, and for whom mercy and truth go before your face. As we sit at the Trrc at this morning hour, we continue to ask that your mercy and your truth will descend mightily upon this commission and upon all who will face this commission, so that the truth will come out and that your judgment and your justice will fall mightily upon this land. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen, Bishop. Thank you very much indeed. Council, are we ready with this morning's witness?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, and members of the audience. We are ready to proceed with today's witness. We have two witnesses scheduled for today, and Horeja Balagay would read the first witness. I won't be in for the hearings this morning because I have other commitments that I need to sort out on behalf of the Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Horeja would naturally.
Thank you very much, indeed. Yeah,
right,
thank you. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning to members of the audience. Can I ask the court usher to kindly bring the witness in? Thank you.
I, Pamodou Fall,
I, Pamodou Fall,
do swear that
I will speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me
So
God.
help me God.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Fall. Welcome to the Commission.
Thank you. Good morning.
As you already know, my name is Horeja Balagay. I will be asking you questions today on behalf of the commissioners. If you have any difficulty with the mic, just draw it a bit closer to you so you don't have to lean forward. You already know how things function here, but I would just like to remind you of a few rules. There is interpretation into the local languages, so I ask that you speak slowly.
Okay.
Additionally, please allow a few seconds in between the end of my speech and the beginning of your speech, so that the interpreters can do their job properly. Additionally, if my questions are unclear at any point, you would either like me to clarify or simply repeat the question, please feel free to do so.
Okay.
You already know that we take scheduled breaks, but if you do need a break while a session is ongoing, kindly just alert me, and we will request for the commissioners to grant you a few minutes.
Okay.
For this morning, I will address a few topics, well, quite a few topics. We will begin with your biographical details, as well as your educational background, just so the commissioners know who you are. In terms of your professional experience, we will deal with them as we talk about the incidents of harassment and intimidation of journalists, because you have worked at quite a few organizations over the years, so it would make sense for us to do it because there is some back and forth between various institutions. So in that regard, we will start with the daily news, your time at the daily news.
Gambia Daily.
The Gambia Daily.
Gambia Daily, yeah.
The Gambia Daily. Then we will talk about your time at Pseudo, including the killing of the late Omar Barrow. We will then talk about the time that you spent at the Independent newspaper, very briefly, because we have heard other testimonies on intimidation and harassment at the Independent. We'll talk about your return to Pseudo, including the harassment of your colleague, as well as the shutdown of Pseudo itself. We will then talk about your time at the Point newspaper, including events leading to Mr. Data Haidara's death, as well as subsequent events, including the GPU press release that led to your own victimization. In the midst of that, we will also discuss the Freedom newspaper saga very briefly as it relates to you. Thereafter, we will conclude by incidents of intimidation by the National Intelligence Agency. That's essentially a rundown of what we will cover today. We have 2 sessions to do that.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So let us start with your full name. Kindly state your full name for the record.
My name's Pamodou.
Mr. Fall, can you tell us your date of birth and where you were born?
Was born in Banjul on the 26th of April 1972 at Havdai.
Can you briefly tell us about your educational background, including which institutions you attended and when you attended those institutions?
Yes, I was enrolled at St. Peter's Primary School in Lamin from 1984 to 1988. Briefly, I didn't start the common entrance at St. Peter's. I proceeded to Fatoto Primary School in the Upper River region, where I started my common entrance examination. That was in 1989.
And after you finished your common entrance examination, where did you attend secondary school or high school?
From 1990 to 1994, Banjul Secondary Technical School, BSTS.
And after that, where did you go to school?
From 1996 to 1994 to 1996, Muslim High School, where I started my O levels.
While you were at Muslim High School, did you join any extracurricular club?
Yes. Whilst at Muslim High School, I was the president of the press club. We formed the press club at Muslim High School.
Was there any particular reason why you were into press matters at that young age?
Yes, whilst I was going to school, I have passion for journalism, to become a journalist. So we formed this press club at the school, and normally what we do read by then during assembly the newspapers. By then it was Foraya, the Point newspaper, and the Daily Observer. Sometimes also, if we have extracurricular activity, if we visit other schools or we go on excursion, we'll come to the school and read the news. So we started it in school. I said my journalism career, I started it at Muslim High School, yes.
After you finished Muslim High School in 1996, did you attend any other institution, educational institution?
Yeah, from 1996 to 1998, I did my O-levels at Institute for Continuous Education, ICE. That's where I did my A-levels.
A-levels at ICE? Yeah.
Yes.
What is your current profession?
I'm still a journalist. I still write for the Gambia Daily, and at the same time, I'm also a media consultant.
Can you tell us where you began your career in journalism?
I began my career at the Gambia Daily. That was in 1998. When I completed my A-levels, I still have passion to become a journalist. I approached Uncle Aliu Sanyang. By then, he was the editor-in-chief of the Gambia Daily, and he encouraged me, and I started as a sports reporter at Gambia Daily.
So essentially, you've been a journalist for over 20 years.
Yeah, for over 20 years.
So about the Gambia Daily, what type of paper is the Gambia Daily? Is it a private?
Gambia Daily is the government newspaper.
How long did you work there? You told us that you began in 1998. For how long did you work there?
Yeah, almost. I worked there briefly, and later joined. I was approached by the late Omar Barrow to join Pseudo FM.
So while you were at the Gambia Daily, you've already told us that it's a government paper.
Yes.
Did you face any form of intimidation or harassment while you were carrying out your activities as a journalist?
No, not at all.
So you were approached by the late Mr. Omar Barrow to join Pseudo FM.
Yes.
When did you join Pseudo FM?
I joined Pseudo FM 1998.
And what kind of media organization is Pseudo FM? Or was Pseudo FM, I should say?
Yes, Pseudo FM was a sub-branch of the Senegalese radio. The person in Gambia was a sub-branch, of the Dakar-based main radio station. So throughout Senegal, they have sub-branches there. They open substations there. So in Gambia also, the Gambia station was a substation. The Banjul-based Pseudo FM.
So it was a radio station. Did it broadcast in various languages, or was it mainly one language?
No, Pseudo FM broadcast in various languages. I could remember I was in the current sports and current affairs department of the radio. The current affairs, the head of the current affairs was Omar Barrow. We normally also do news broadcasts in English, local languages, Wolof, Mandinka, and even Fula. So Pseudo FM was the first radio to do that because we copied that from the Senegalese station. Because normally what they do, they will have news in French in Senegal, but while in Gambia here we have news in English, Wolof, Mandinka, and Fula. And also we link to Senegal Pseudo FM. When it's news time for French, we do link at the main station in Dakar.
So at that time in 1998, let's say to 2000, apart from Pseudo FM, what other radio stations were functioning at that time?
Yeah, apart from Sud FM, there was Radio Seat, also in Banjul. There was also Citizen FM radio and Radio 1 FM.
So those were the radio stations that were operating at the time.
Yes.
What was the broadcast of Sud FM like? Did you cover one side of a story? Were you pro-government or were you critical of the government? Or did you, what was your style essentially at Sud FM?
It was an independent station. It covers various types of news. It covers government. It covers the opposition. It also covers human interest stories. Yes, so Sud FM was an independent station.
How did the government react to the fact that Sud FM also carried stories or covered the opposition?
The government was not, at the time, the government was not happy about our coverage, Sud FM's coverage, because normally we do go and interview some of these opposition leaders like Lamin Wajuara, because by then, as a journalist, if you want to make the headlines, you go to Wajuara, he will give you more. That's the time, because normally if you go to Wa and interview him, you will have more than enough at the time. So journalists rush to go and interview Wajuara, and we will also have the news. And the other oppositions were here, we do cover them. But the government also was not happy in the way and manner, we do our news. Because I could remember there was a time, in fact, they spoke to the station manager at the time, who was Mohamed Suleiman Bou. He was the guy who opened Sud FM Banjul. So they were not happy about the way and manner Sud FM was broadcasting in the country. So as a result, sometimes we were not also far away from the police station, but we do have sources who will always come and tell us that the authorities are not happy in the way and manner you carry your news.
You said someone spoke to was it the managing director of Sud FM at the time?
Yes, Suleiman Bou.
Do you recall who spoke to him?
No, actually, these were our sources.
So your sources from the government were
telling you? Yeah, we do
you
have sources from the government. As journalists, we are so connected. So we have sources from everywhere. So this information came from sources.
And these sources informed you that the government was unhappy with the coverage of Sud FM?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So as a result of this, were there any instances where staff members of Sud FM faced harassment? I'm referring to before the killing of the late Omar Barrow. Do you recall any instances around that time, or was it just a general sentiment and feedback you were getting from the government?
No, it was sources? A general sentiment. Before the killing of Omar Barrow, no, we don't have issues. These were just, they always tell us that, we are not happy in the way and manner you broadcast. So, but there was no incident, serious incident at that time.
And how did your management react to that sort of feedback, that the government was unhappy with your stories? Did you persist with the same kinds of stories, or did that have an impact on your coverage?
No, the management, they were firm, and they continue with the same news style to continue broadcasting, and the house style of the radio didn't change. We maintain the same house style.
You mentioned Wajuara. Are you referring to Lamin Wajuara?
Yes.
And you said that he would normally give you more than enough. What do you mean by that?
At the time, when you go and interview him on an issue, other issues will come up, will prop. So, and you, as a journalist also, you take it from there. And in fact, as a journalist, news is just like food to us. If you have news, it's just like that, you feed us. If a journalist is happy to have good news. If you have good news, you are happy. Even if you don't take food, you are happy.
And so Mr. Lamin Wajuara, being a member of the opposition at the time, presumably these were stories that were also critical of the government of the day at the time.
Yes, yes.
Which Sud FM would then carry and broadcast.
Yes.
I'd like to focus now on the killing of the late Mr. Omar Barrow. You told us that he was the reason why you joined Sud FM. Can you tell us about the events that led to his killing?
Yes, thank you. Omar was a mentor. Omar was the one who encouraged me, as I told you earlier, to join Sud FM. I could remember April 2000, if of the April 10 and 11, April 9, we were at the station. I think Omar got information that something will happen tomorrow. He got information. As I told you, we were not far away from the police, and we do have a lot of sources, you know. So,
sorry, just to interrupt you, where were the premises of the Sud FM? Where was it located at that time?
In Banjul, around Bakul Street, I think, where the police station, police headquarters is based. I think that street is Bakul Street. Wellington or Bakul Street?
Please continue.
No, where the police headquarters?
Exactly, in Banjul.
Yes, in Banjul.
Please continue.
So we were not far away. It was just a fence between us and the police headquarters. We were in the same row with the police headquarters. Some people who knows Banjul very well, you know, the businessman Damja. You know, Damja was downstairs and Sud FM, we were upstairs, you know. So we share the same building with Damja. You know, when you leave Damja, you just have the police garage, after the Banjul Magistrate Court, after the Banjul Magistrate Court, then the police headquarters.
So you were telling us about what happened on the 9th of April, 2000. Please continue.
Yes, on the 9th of April, 2000, I was a young reporter by then. Omar gave me information that something will happen tomorrow. That's a student demonstration. And by then, he have these gadgets. By then, they used to have this Alcatel telephones. Those were the ones that were available at the time. So he collected the Alcatel phone, and I could remember in the evening, he said, Pa, by then I was living in Banjul. He said, let's go to my house. So we went there, so that, he said, I cannot brief you here well, but if you go to my house, I can brief you on how to go about, you know, the coverage tomorrow. Because by then, I didn't know how to go about demonstration, on how to report about demonstration. But Omar, being an experienced guy, he coached me on how to go about, you know, reporting. So we went, I could remember.
Just an interruption there, my apologies. Was there any particular reason why he did not want to brief you at the station, at the Sud FM station?
No, he invited me for a dinner. You know, we went to the wife, our Sani, and we had a dinner. I could fully remember that day we used to have the usual chere meal. That's what I had with Omar and one of the friends of Omar. So after that, when I was going, you know, he used to live at Latekunda, German. So afterwards, he told me that, okay, you are going, but be mindful tomorrow. Just take your time, don't rush. I said, okay, no problem. He said, if you have any problem, feel free to contact me. But me, I'll not be on the ground, but I'll be at the Red Cross. Because remember, Omar was a Red Cross volunteer. He was a journalist, cum Red Cross.
So he was a journalist as well as a humanitarian volunteer at the Red Cross?
Yes.
Humanitarian worker. So please continue telling us about the events that led to his death.
On April 10th, in the morning, while he was at the Red Cross, you know, he called me and said, the station will contact you, they will call you, and so that when the demonstration starts, you will go live, we are going live. So, but me, I'll be at the Red Cross I will not be on the ground, but I'll be at the Red Cross to volunteer, at least whatever happens, you know, to help the students. I said, okay, no problem. So I
Was
think
it
at GTTI,
was it normal for him to go to the Red Cross on that particular day, or was he going in anticipation of something?
no, he was normally Omar. I don't know. I'm not sure whether it was normal or not. I'm not sure. But on this day, he was not on the ground. I was the one on the ground.
Please continue, yes.
Yes. In the morning, we saw each other. He called me that go to GTTI. I went to GTTI. Whilst I was at GTTI, when the students gathered and came to GTTI, I told the station to call me. Usman was in the studio. Usman Sisi, he was in the studio by then. He is a colleague journalist. So when Usman called me, whilst I was at GTTI, things were going, students started gathering and so forth. So afterwards, the security also, started coming, because I first spotted the security at Westfield. So by then, but Omar told me to go to GTTI. I went to GTTI. When it starts, the class starts, the station called me. I started sending live report. But at GTTI, when I was at GTTI, I told them that when I was giving live report, I said I'm in Bakau. Instead of telling the actual location, I didn't mention my actual location, but I said I'm in Bakau whilst I was at GTTI.
Why did you do that?
It was a strategy. It was a strategy because I was new and I was also in coach on how to go about things. So it was about my safety.
So you felt that because you were giving live broadcasts about the demonstrations, it was better to conceal your actual location for your own safety?
Yes, and that was only at GTTI where I don't disclose my actual location. But the rest, I was giving live report and telling them where I was at the time.
This is an incident that the Commission will look into separately and hear evidence on. But can you just briefly tell us about what was happening and what occurred later in the day?
Yes, from GTTI, I moved to Westfield, still on live coverage. We were on broadcasting the April 10 live. So I went to Westfield. What's happening there, I was reporting. But I was also interviewing students, and we were broadcasting live. Everything was going live on air. So, but I think the authorities also were aware that Sud FM was going live. So they were not happy. So I saw soldiers at Westfield. They were coming towards the student. So when the class starts, everything found me at Westfield around the Gamtel. So whilst I was there also, I was reporting events as it unfolds. So giving regular updates as to what happened between the security forces and the students who were demonstrating.
You said there was a clash. What exactly happened from what you recall?
Yeah, between the students and, because afterwards we see live fire, they were firing on students. When the firing starts, I reported that firing starts. The students, they are firing on the students. So some of the students also, I was also interviewing them, and they were also giving their views. Everything was live, but I didn't interview any security officer because I felt that it was not safe at the time to interview the security officer. My focus was on the students. So, and I based my reports only on the students who were demonstrating.
So you said the security forces were firing. Do you recall which security forces, which unit they belonged to?
I saw the army. I saw the army in uniform, and they were armed.
And the shooting came from the army?
Yes.
Was any other security force present and involved in that?
No, I saw the army. Yes, I saw the army.
So the army was shooting at the students?
Students, yes, they were shooting.
And what was the reaction of the students to that?
No, students, some of them were running. When the shooting starts, most of the students were running for their lives because they started also having, casualties. Some of them started falling down, because I could remember I was there with 2 reporters I can recall. That was Bernard Gomez, who used to report for the Observer or Point, and Wandifa Dabo, he was a GRTS reporter. So we were the ones on the ground.
So what happened after that?
Okay, after that, when the army commander came, Babakar Jatta, and the students surround him. But at the time, Babakar Jatta was the army commander, and the students surrounded him. I also reported that. Shortly after that, also, when they were going towards GRTS, I was also reporting that. Up to before GRTS, I suspected that they are following, somebody is following me. I was with Wandifa Dabo. I told Wandifa, I'm on live broadcast, but those soldiers that are coming, I know that they are coming for me. So what I did was, I stopped live broadcast and run to GRTS. By then, GRTS is at just Kairaba Avenue, where Gamtel is now. That's where GRTS is. I went there to hide. I could remember when I went, I found Alaji Modou and Jaina Banyang. So, and they were, I told them that soldiers are following me, so they locked me at a toilet. So when I was locked at a toilet, 5 minutes later, soldiers coming asking, where is Pamodou? Where is Pamodou? But Alaji Modou and Jainaba said, no, Pamodou have not stepped here. So they saved my life.
So the soldiers knew that you were the one reporting and they were looking for you?
Yes, I don't know where they got the information, but I know somebody must have told them that Sudefem was giving live reports of the events.
And during the broadcast of the live broadcast, you identified yourself by name, I assume?
Yes.
So they tried to look, soldiers came after you, GRTS, your colleagues at GRTS, Jaina Banyang as well as Modou Diouf, basically said you were not around,
Yes.
and then the soldiers left.
Yes.
Did anything else happen to you that day?
Yes. After that, I went to, 30 minutes later, I have to jump the fence of GRTS. I have not come to the main gate because it was not safe for me, because I thought that maybe they might be outside. So I have to jump the fence. I told Wandifa, now is survival of the fittest. What we can do, let's jump the fence. So we jumped the fence and used the other way of Kanifing, where the Senegalese high school is. Use that back way up to GRTS. We went to GRTS. And by then, I think Peter Gomez, because by then I used to report for also GRTS. I didn't mention this thing. I used to report sports, I don't know if it was sport file. Was Peter Gomez used to conduct that program. I was the reporter responsible for Banjul and Bakau. Sorry. I was the reporter responsible for Banjul and Bakau for weekly sport file. I went to Peter, and Peter told me that, did you hear that Omar is dead? I said, yes, I heard about it.
Before you proceed on that, I just want to make sure it's clear. You were at GRTS when the soldiers were looking for you. You said you scaled the fence.
Yes.
And then you said you went to GRTS. Do you mean where GRTS is located presently?
Mile 7 at the radio. That's where I met my boss, Peter Gomez, and he told me whether I had the news about Omar. I said, yes, I had the news about Omar, that he is killed. So after, I didn't spend time at GRTS. I went straight to Cape Point, where my aunt was, because by then, my family also, they were concerned about my safety. I went to my aunt to inform her that I'm safe, nothing happens to me. And my aunt told me that I was listening to the radio. So from there, I was told by my aunt that my sister got fainted she was a grade 12 student by then, my sister, younger sister. She was fainted at around GTTI, and she was rushed to the hospital. And I said, okay, now I'll go to Banjul. My aunt insists that no, I should not go to Banjul because it's not safe. Whilst I was at Old Cape Road, I saw Mr. Damfa. Mr. Damfa was by then I don't know whether the CEO of RVTH. He was the head of RVTH. So I begged for leave. I said, Mr. Damfa, maybe you don't know me, but please, can you just take me to Banjul? He said, no, I cannot. I don't know you. Why should I take you? I said, no, please. I'm a journalist of Sud FM, and I made to understand that my colleague is killed, Omar, and the body is at the mortuary. So he told me that, what about at the bridge, when we reach at the bridge? I said, no, I know what to do. When we reach at the bridge, when we are about to reach at the bridge, so I bent down, because the security, they know Damfa. So when I bent down, Damfa told me to bend down. I bent down because I was at the back. So when they give him clearance to go, so after I sit again, I sit it properly. So that's how I entered Banjul. But at the bridge, we found a lot of soldiers at the bridge.
So before you continue, when you met Peter Gomez and he asked you whether you had heard about the killing of Omar Barrow, you said you had already heard about it.
Yes.
How did you, who told you about it?
No, when I arrived, before, when I escaped from GRTS, we met one guy, I forget to mention, he knows me personally. He said, Pa, do you learn that I learned that Omar is just shot, Omar is just killed. Now, do you get the news? I said, no. He said, he said to me that Omar is killed. So I get devastated. I was so furious, I don't know what to do. That's the time I rushed to Radio Gambia.
Did he provide you with any information as to the circumstances that led to Omar's death?
No.
So you were telling us that you were on your way to Banjul to go to the mortuary because you were told that the late Omar Barrow's corpse was at the mortuary.
Yes.
Please tell us what happened when you arrived.
Yes. Instead of thinking my sister who was admitted there, I went straight to the mortuary. Whilst I arrived, I saw them, putting Omar on those, taking him to the mortuary. So I went with them to the mortuary. But I saw him, when he was with a blue shirt. I could remember, with a blue shirt, so blood was somewhere around his body. So that day, I felt bad that day. I felt so sad that very day. I saw Omar when he was taken to the mortuary.
I understand that this can be a difficult question for you to answer, but do you recall whether you could tell if he had gunshot wounds on his body?
If
he had gunshot wounds on his body, could you tell where he had been shot?
No, yeah. Actually, I cannot tell, but I know that he was shot because there was blood around his body. I saw blood around his shirt, but actually I don't know where the location.
So did you subsequently, you said this was a very difficult experience for you. Of course, you knew Omar Barrow personally. Did you subsequently find out any information as to how he was killed?
Yeah, from the Red Cross, because he have a lot of friends with the Red Cross. He was a volunteer, and they said that he was shot by the security. So they don't know actually who shot Omar, but they know that it was from the security.
And do you know, did they tell you where he was shot?
Around the Red Cross premises, while he was trying to assist the students, I was informed.
While he was trying to administer assistance,
yes.
That's
the students who were shot and so forth.
When the security forces shot and killed him.
Yes, that's the information I got.
And of course, the late Omar Barrow was a journalist like yourself.
Yes.
And having had the close relationship that you had with him, what effect did this have on you?
It has a serious effect on me, because afterwards, working at Sud FM becomes a problem for me. Anytime I enter the studio, or we are about to prepare news, I always think about Omar Barrow. So it was not easy. As a resource in 2000, That led to my resignation at Sud FM. I resigned voluntarily, to join another media house. So I could no longer cope, with Sud FM, because after Omar's death.
Because Omar Barrow, being the person who approached you to work for Sud FM, was no longer there.
Yes.
Because he had been killed.
Yes.
So you decided to move to a different organization, is that correct?
Yes.
Where did you go next?
I think it was independent newspaper. Independent. It was independent, newspaper.
And that would have been in 2000, the same year, or
yes,
was it?
2000.
And what kind of work were you doing at the Independent? What kind of reporting?
Yeah, at Independent, I was a sport reporter, but still cover general news also.
And were you a staff reporter or were you a freelance reporter?
I was a freelance reporter.
As I stated before, we have heard extensive testimony about the harassment and intimidation at the Independent newspaper. But just from from your perspective, can you give us a general idea of the types of incidents or the type of harassment that journalists at the Independent faced?
Yes, because at the time, the government felt that Independent was an opposition paper. That's what the government believed at the time, because the Independent used to carry critical news stories, about the government, but most of the time, their stories were balanced, because they will cross-check with most of the stories when their reporters bring reports, even if they are not so, whilst even we are at home, they will call us to cross-check whether the stories are accurate or factual or not. So they will always cross-check their story. And if you come there as a reporter, the first thing that they will tell you that we don't want sensational reporting. All what we want, give us the facts as it happens.
So what are some of the incidents of harassment and intimidation that you recall at the Independent?
Yeah, I could recall several arrests were made, especially Dr. Babagale Jallo, Alaji Yoro Jallo, Alaji Mbai, known as Action. He was my koto. We used to call him Action. So, and NB Dafe also. And
what was NB Dafe's full name?
Lamin.
Lamin Dafe.
Yeah. So these people were frequently arrested by the authorities. On numerous occasions, they were arrested. Sometimes they are called for questionings after, they will release them. But most of the people who suffered arrest at the Independent were Action Alaji Mbai, Dr. Babagale Jallo, Alaji Yoro, and NB Dafi. These people, I can say, they were arrested on several occasions. I could fully remember this.
And while you were there, do you remember which unit of the security force would normally either arrest them or call them in for questioning?
Yeah, sometimes it's the police, at times NIA. It was between the police and the NIA.
And how did you find out about these incidents of arrests and questioning, harassment? How did you find out about them?
Yeah, I think all was just to discourage them, not to continue the good work that they were doing at the time, so that once they are arresting them every time, so they will be discouraged to leave the job. So that is my belief.
But what I want to know is, how did you find out about the arrests? Did they occur in front of you, or were you told subsequently?
No, I could remember one time we were at the office and Alajoro and Babagale were arrested in front of us. I could remember that. NB Dafe also was my junior. Though he was a staff, I was a freelancer, but I seniored him in the job. He was my junior, but he was one time also, arrested in front of me. They came for him at the office and took him to the police headquarters.
How long did you work at the Independent? For how long?
Yeah, briefly. I can recall now because it's a long time, but briefly.
In your statement, it says from 2000 to 2002. Does that
Yes,
sound
correct.
So for a couple of years.
Yes.
Thereafter, where did you go?
From the Independent, I think I went to the Point newspaper. Sorry, from the Independent, Observer, I think. Observer.
And I
If
know
may.
this is a bit of a difficulty for you because you kept
to be
moving
frank,
around.
Counsel, I have been crisscrossing within the media houses. I have worked for so many media houses. All the media houses, I work for them. Honestly, I work for all the media houses. Sometimes I will go once, I work for them, and I go to another media house. So I was just jumping from one media house to another. So I have institutional memory for all the media houses, but remembering dates will be a problem. But I can tell you, frankly speaking, I have worked for all the media houses in this country.
Well, I'll assist you with that.
Yes.
I remember that during our pre-hearing meeting, it took us a while to situate a lot of the events. And we mainly, in the end, were able to figure out when you were at a certain place because of an incident. So I will assist as I'm going through your statement.
Okay.
But if something doesn't sound correct, please feel free to correct me.
Okay.
From what you told me, you returned to Sud FM around 2002.
Yes.
And you stayed there until Sud FM was shut down.
Yes. Yes.
Of course, at the same time, you were still working as a
Point.
freelance journalist for other organizations.
Yes,
For the
yes.
Point. So I'd like to focus on Sud FM for now, your return to Sud FM.
Yes. That was my second return to Sud FM. So, and my second return was very interesting. In fact, when Sud FM was closed, shut down.
Before the shutdown, can we talk about an incident where a journalist called Usman Cisse was harassed?
Yes, because what happened, I think it was during the abortive coup of Nur Cham. I think one Corporal Damfa, he used to be a state guard, and it was around just after 2 o'clock prayers, the soldiers chased him, and he went straight to the market. And that day, I could remember, there was commotion in the market. Some business people were shutting their shops and so forth because there was commotion in Banjul. So some people were saying it's coup d'etat, so there was no clear information, about what happened. So I was there with Usman Cisse. Usman was a reporter of Sud FM. So we went to gather news as to what happened during the commotion. So whilst we are at the Banjul Urban Market, Usman was with his gadgets, recorder, and so forth. But he was malhandled by the soldiers who were chasing Corporal Barrow, who went through the beach.
Corporal Damfa.
Corporal Damfa, sorry, who went through the beach. But in the market, the moment the soldiers, because the soldiers, I saw them, they were armed and following this soldier. So when they were following him, so there was total pandemonium, at the market. So everybody was confused. So whilst Usman and I were gathering the news for our 4 o'clock news, after Usman's recorder was confiscated from him by the soldiers, and he was beaten. He even sustained some bruises as a result of that.
So let's take it step by step. At the time, you heard about the abortive coup, and so you and Usman Cisse went to the Banjul market, that would be Albert Market.
Yes, Albert Market.
In order to gather information about what was happening. Did you interview the soldiers or members of the public?
No, by the time, Council, you don't think of interviewing the soldiers. Yes, you don't think about it. We were concerned about the business people who were there, why they are shutting their shops down. So that was our concern, at least to ask them what happened. So whilst we were doing that,
Were you and Usman Sise in the same area, collecting stories at the same time, or
Yeah,
did
we
you
were not
separate?
far away from each other because I saw Usman when he was malhandled, but I was also gathering news, interviewing. We did some interviews, actually, but Usman, I did some interviews and took to the station, but for Usman, his recorder was confiscated from him and he was beaten mercilessly.
So you said you witnessed the incident when he was being manhandled.
Yes, yes.
So from where you were, you could see
Yeah,
what
it
was
was
happening.
at the center of the market. I could remember, I hear them saying, Bombardier, Bombardier, Bombardier is coming, Bombardier is coming. By then, I think it was Bombardier who led the soldiers. So, you know, he was a famous soldier.
Who was bombarded?
Kausu Kamara,
And which unit did he work for?
state guards. So they were saying Bombardier, Bombardier is coming. So by then, if you say Bombardier, many people fear Bombardier. You understand? So everybody was confused. Everybody was confused. So Usman was malhandled, but he couldn't continue. After that incident, he went straight to the station.
I think you need to slow down a little bit.
No problem.
I want to focus on what happened to Usman Sise. So from what you could see from where you were standing, give us an account of what you recall. How many soldiers were, quote, manhandling him, and what exactly did they do to him?
Yeah, I saw two soldiers. You know, he was beaten, and after his face, you can see, and his left hand, you can see bruises, and his face also, you know, there were some wounds, you know, because as a result of the beating, yes.
Do you recall what they were using to beat him? The soldiers?
Some were slapping him, some were kicking him, you know, yeah.
So as a result of that beating, he sustained injuries?
Yeah, he sustained injuries.
Did you speak to Usman after that?
Yeah, Usman came. When Usman came, we interviewed him during our news time to explain his ordeals to us, and he also explained what happened to him. And it was a live interview during our news time.
So did he provide you with any additional information? Perhaps was he able to identify the soldiers that did that to him?
No, he was not able to identify them, but while narrating his ordeals, he told us that he was there to gather news. When the soldiers saw him interviewing people with his recorder, so that's the time they rushed on him and started slapping him and kicking him.
So the soldiers slapped and kicked him in order to stop him from continuing to report what was happening?
Yes.
You began by starting the shutdown, the Sud FM shutdown. Can we move to that topic now? What led to the Sud FM shutdown?
Yes, this was on a Saturday, I think around 2007, whilst I was hosting a civic education program. It was around 3 o'clock. Plainclothes officials came and the police that they have orders from the top that the station should be shut down. They called whilst I was on live, I was live on air. It was a live phoning program. So the station manager came and whispered on my ear and said that these people are here, they want to shut down the station. But just give me 1 minute. Give me the microphone. So I gave him, it was Pap Trrc. He was the station manager at that time. And Pap told the public that, he announced that the securities are here, and they said they got orders from the top that they will shut the station. So now, any development, he will update the public about it. So that's the time. But the station manager was bold enough to announce that these people were there and they are there to shut down the station. So what happened? Actually, when they shut down the station manager and his family, Mr. Trrc, they were living at the station and with his family. So they said they bought a lock, and they said they will lock the station. We appealed to them and say that our station manager is living here. He cannot go anywhere because he is living here with his family. He cannot leave his family here. So even though if you are going to shut the station, you will allow our station manager to stay until and unless that this matter is resolved.
So was the station manager able to still reside at the Pseudo FM?
Yes, they allow him to reside. But what happened, interestingly, is that what happened actually, there was this border impasse between Gambia and Senegal. And the former president happens to travel to Senegal to resolve this matter with the former Senegalese president, Abdoulaye Wade.
Would be former President Yaya
Jammeh.
Went to Senegal.
Yes. Okay. A day after his arrival, the station was shut down because this guy, Sud FM, on that very day also, the main station in Dakar, Sud FM Dakar, was also shut down by the Senegalese authorities. But it just took them one day, So, but Sud FM Banjul, when it was shut down, up to date, that's the end of the station. But what we suspected, the information we gathered, because that morning, it was in Ramadan, I could fully remember, that the former information minister, Nana McDowell Gay, came for shopping at this place, at Damja's shop. It's just, Damja is just down there. So shortly after she left, this police came. So we suspect that our staff, that it was Nene have a hand, in the sorting of Sud FM Banjul. So that's the general belief that the staff have, based on the information we gathered.
Is that mere speculation because she was present there that day, or is it based on actual information coming from your sources that she had a hand in the
Based on what we heard from our sources, I'm not sure whether that is true or not, but this was the information we got.
And those were presumably government sources who told you that she had a hand in the shutdown of Pseudo.
Yes, yes.
So I would like to take you back to your description of the actual shutdown. You said that plainclothes officers came in and shut down the station.
Yes.
Did they give any reasons for the shutdown at that point?
No, no reason was given.
Did they show any legal documents of any sort indicating that they had authorization to shut down?
No document was shown.
You said that they informed you, meaning the staff at Sud FM, that it was orders from the top.
Yes.
What did you understand by that?
No, by then, orders from the top, you can interpret it differently. When you say orders from the top, it's from State House. Orders from the top. Maybe people, maybe the president. When you say orders from the top, what we interpret orders from the top is from OP.
So just to be clear, whenever it was mentioned orders from the top, the general interpretation was that it came from the president at State House,
yes,
the office of the president.
Yes, that was our understanding.
But at that point, they didn't say anything else other than the shutdown was as a result of orders from the top.
Yes, and if I may come in, Pap Jumai Chare make a lot of efforts. I think after the station was shut down, he stayed here almost for 3 to 4 months, trying to persuade the authorities to reopen the station, but to no avail. They told him to write letters. He did everything possible to make sure that the station is reopened, but to no avail.
So essentially that shutdown was the end of Sud FM?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
One thing you mentioned was that your sources informed you that then Information Minister Nene McDowell had a hand in the shutdown. Mm-hmm. You don't know if that's true or not, but that's the information you received.
Yeah, we don't know whether that's true or not, but that was the information we got.
You also talked about the border dispute between Senegal and the Gambia,
yes,
which then presumably the shutdown of Sud FM Dakar was in relation to that,
yes,
but that was a one-day shutdown.
Yes.
Is it the case that you believe that border shutdown had something to do with Pseudo Banjul also being shut down?
Yes, it may be as a result of that. Maybe the authorities know better why they shut down the station. Maybe this time, I don't want to speculate, but actually they know the reason why they shut down Pseudo Banjul. Because as I told you, we used to link with Dakar, and during news time in Dakar, we call it news review. It's called news review in Dakar, whereby they will review all the newspapers in Dakar. So, and the issue of the border was also brought in during that review. So that day we also broadcast that for the benefit of the Gambians to know the reason why President Jammeh was in Dakar. So, but immediately after that, the station, we were ordered to close down.
Thank you for that explanation. So that was the end of Sud FM.
Yes.
You told us in the beginning that while you were working at Sud FM, you also worked for The Point newspaper.
Yes.
Do you recall for how long you worked at The Point newspaper?
For 8 years.
And do you recall, I know dates can be an issue sometimes, but do you recall the period when you worked for them? From what year to?
I think from 2003 up to 2011. Yeah.
So let's focus on The Point newspaper. Can you tell us about The Point as a paper? What kind of stories did The Point broadcast, and how was it viewed generally as a paper?
Yeah, it was an authoritative paper, and The Point was just like the Independent. They believe in factual reports, and they didn't distinguish also who is who. When it comes to news gathering, they treat everybody equally. They interview sometimes the opposition. They also cover government programs. But even government programs sometimes is a problem. Sometimes you go, if you identify yourself as a reporter from The Point, they will see you differently. You understand? So we have undergone all these things. But The Point...
What do you mean by the government would see you differently if you mentioned that you were a reporter for The Point?
Because they saw The Point as a critical paper to the government. That was the belief the government have at the time.
Before we proceed further regarding The Point, I just wanted to clarify something. You told us that the shutdown of Sud FM was in 2007, from what you recall. We understand from the GPU dispatch that the shutdown was 2005.
Yeah,
it could be that it was an error, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, maybe it's an error, because this is long time. I can't recall now. But the GPU, I will believe the GPU records. Yes, because it's long time. I can't remember now.
But you also talked about the Ndur-Cham abortive coup, which was in 2006.
Yes.
And then you said the shutdown happened after that.
Yeah, I don't know which of the coups, because it's long time, but it was one of these abortive coups. Yeah, I don't know whether it's Ndur-Cham or not, but I know it's one of these abortive coups. But actually, I can't remember the date. But I know it was one of these abortive coups.
So it could be 2005, it could be 2007?
Yes.
You're not too sure?
Yes, but it was an abortive coup.
The shutdown is what I'm referring to?
Yeah, between 2005 or 2007. Actually, I can't remember the date.
No, that's perfectly clear. Thank you. So we were talking about The Point newspaper. You told us about essentially the editorial policy and the fact that it wasn't one-sided. You also talked about how the government viewed Point reporters when they went to certain events. At the time that you joined, which would have been 2003, did you have a chance to work with the late Data Haidara?
Yes, I worked with the late Data, because whilst I was at Sud FM, he was the one who encouraged me to come and freelance for them as a sports reporter. So he encouraged me, because at Sud FM, I used to host a sports program by then. Because as I told you earlier on, I started as a sport reporter, and many people know me as a sport reporter by then. So just to help the paper, he said some of the reports, maybe they don't, by then, the capacity was not there. They don't have enough sport reporters. So he told me to be assisting the paper. So that's how I came to the point to work with them.
The Commission has heard some testimony about threats that were made against the late Data Haidara. Do you recall any threats that were made against him, either as a result of his own writings or as a result of the Point newspaper as a whole?
Yeah, it's as a result of his own writing, especially the Good Morning, Mr. President. That was very interesting, and most of the people, readers, do follow the Good Morning, Mr. President. And Good Morning, Mr. President focus on current issues and societal issues that the public wants to know. Normally, when he writes something in that column, Good Morning, Mr. President, he will write based on issues, current issues that are affecting, the public at the time. So he will focus on things that were of concerns to the public, and will tell the president that this is what this is what you are supposed to do, and this is what the public also expects from you. So it was an opinionated column.
So an opinionated column on current affairs addressed to the president at the time, Mr. Yahya Jammeh.
Yes, yes.
We began by talking about threats. Did he receive any threats as a result of that column?
Yes, he received several threats, because I could remember there was one time he wrote something in the column in Wolof said, Kubuka akaradanga nyemekani. So Data once wrote these things, because sometimes, he was a good writer. So sometimes when he wrote some other things, he will bring Wolof, proverbs and so forth, in the column. So he used to write that.
And what did he mean by that phrase, Kubuka akaranya mekani?
But that is simple in Wolof. Like, if you, how to call it again? I don't know how to describe it. But Kubuka akaranya mekani, that means, I don't know how to describe it anyway. But I think what Data was purposely saying, like, if you are leading, you have to accept criticisms. Simply, that's my understanding. Maybe it may have a different interpretation, those who can speak Wolof more than me, but this is how I, interpret it.
That's what I was driving at. What was your understanding of?
My understanding is that if you are leading, you have to accept criticisms.
So what were some of the threats that he received as a result of that column?
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, Mr. President, because he was also writing the issues about the Media Commission. There was a time they wanted to set up this Media Commission, and Data was very key in that. I could remember Uncle Data Haidara, Uncle Swaibu Konate, and Uncle Cherno Jallo, and D.A. Jao. So these people were fighting tooth and nail to make sure that the Media Commission doesn't come. Yeah.
You said he received threats as a result of, one, his involvement in the Media Commission, his criticism.
Yeah,
of
his
the Media
criticism,
Commission.
especially the Good Morning, Mr. President. And the other threats.
First of all, I just want to find out, one, what was the content of those threats? What type of threats were they? And two, where did the threat emanate from?
Sometimes it's from anonymous people, because normally these people don't come plainly. So most of the time it's anonymous. So you don't know who writes sometimes. Or sometimes even you can be at the office, you receive strange phone calls and they will not identify themselves. So all those things happens to my former boss.
So threats through phone calls as well as in written format?
Yes, anonymous.
Anonymous?
Yes.
And what kind of threats were they?
It was all about his life, to stop his writing, to stop criticizing the government, especially the president.
So these were death threats?
Yes, yes.
Do you recall what his reaction was to those kinds of threats?
Data was very firm. You know, he feared nothing but God. He would tell you, if I die because of this profession, you know, I will die for journalism. I'll die to make sure that there is no injustice. So this is the belief Data used to have.
You've mentioned the threats that came as a result of his column, Good Morning, Mr. President. Did he receive any other threats in connection with the paper?
Yes. I could remember in 2004, after the death of the late Imam Ratib of Banjul, Imam Abdullah Job, there was Imam crisis in Banjul between the current Imam Ratib and Tafsir Gay. There was a crisis in Banjul. I was the one covering it for the Point. But by then, some people were not happy also about the reports the Point was publishing.
So this was a crisis, Imam crisis, in
Yeah,
relation
there was
to
a big Imam crisis in Banjul.
Let me finish and then you can respond.
Yeah.
It was in relation to succession following the death of the Imam Ratib then.
Yeah.
You told us it was between Imam Tamsir Gay, what's the name of
Imam
the...
Chernoka.
Imam Chernoka. Can you tell us what happened as a result? You were the one reporting about that crisis.
Yes, I was the reporter assigned to cover the Imam crisis in Banjul. This was a very interesting and tense moment in Banjul because what actually happened after the death of Imam Abdullah Job, there were two deputies. Imam Chernoka was a deputy. Imam Tafsir Gol also was a deputy. So the Banjul Muslim elders, normally, they are the ones who normally choose the next success of the late Imam. But there was misunderstanding, you know, between the two camps. Some were in support of Imam Chernoka, some were in support of Imam Tafsir Gay. And there were two camps. They were divided as to who would be the Imam Ratib of Banjul. As a result of this, they went into an election. And this election was held at the King Fahad Mosque, and it was by voting, you know, who will become the Imam. So the first one, they said the election was not fair. The other camp claimed that the election was not fair. So they have to do the election. By then, Samba Fall was the Minister of Youth, Sports and Religious Affairs.
I'm more concerned about how it relates to the threats that were made against Mr. Data Haidara.
Yes.
As well as, you know, your reporting for The Point. What was the reaction of the camp?
Yes, one of the camps was not happy. I don't want to disclose actually which camp it was, but one of the camps was not happy. And Data, knowing Data was also from Banjul, he was also from Banjul, and he knows a lot in Banjul, you know, as far as elders are Banjul is concerned. And I was also from Banjul, though young, but I know something about it because by then, Imam Buran John, the late, was the secretary to Banjul Muslim elders. You understand? So now, when we Point published a report, one of the camp was not happy, and they started send threats to Data that how Point is reporting these things is not balanced, and Point they are biased in the way and manner they report the Imam crisis in Banjul. I could remember I sat with the late Data one day, that was before the final elections of the Imam. He told me that, Pa, I don't fear anybody. I fear God. They are not more Banjurian than me. They are not more Gambian than me. What I fear, he told me that I'm from Waladeh. Anti-Adelaide and others will know, and Chairman, Waladeh. in those days, Walade, people from Banjul, when you cross to Kung or Bara-En or Jokado area or Nyumi, they call it Walade. The Wolof call it Walade. So he said, me, I'm from Walade. I don't fear anything, but I only fear God. So that was the only threat that came, and after, it ends there.
So still focusing on what you've termed a threat, I want to, from what you've said, there were complaints about the types of reports that were filed by the Point. Did it escalate to a point of a threat, or was it just complaints about the types of reporting?
No, it came as a threat because the other camp was not happy, and they expressed, I think they even wrote to the Point that, they are not happy in the way and manner the Point is handling this thing.
And what did they threaten to do, or how did they threaten the late Data Haidara?
Yeah, they said Data should remove his hands from this Banjul Imam crisis. That's what they told him. Let him remove his hands from this Banjul Imam crisis. But Data told him that.
Remove his hands from the crisis, or else?
Yeah,
what?
so let us stop reporting about these things. And Data told him that this is of public concern, because the public wants to know the truth at the end of the day.
So they did not issue any threats against his life, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, no. They issued a threat because they were phone calls and they were using the late Data's friend to send people to Data to advise him, let him forget about this Banjul Imam crisis. They were sending people to him, but Data said he will continue up to the last.
What I'm trying to distinguish is a threat from attempts to influence the story or the type of coverage.
The coverage.
So it was attempts to influence the coverage.
Yes, it was attempt to influence the coverage, because what happened actually, we do balance reporting. What happened was I engage both camps. I do interview both sides, but one of the camps want us Point to give them, influence or advantage over the other camp, which Data refused, because they were using the Banjul connection to make sure that at least let Data give the other camp more coverage than the other side, which he refused.
So it wasn't a threat, it was more attempts to influence the coverage that was being...
Yes.
We know subsequently that Mr. Data Haidara lost his life.
Yes.
Can you tell us about how you found out about his death?
Yes, it was in 2004, whilst I was in Egypt doing my diploma in mass communication, and the late Uncle Data and D.A. Jao facilitated my trip to Egypt, where I bagged a mass communication diploma. So after completing my course, that evening I was with a Nigerian friend called Ibrahim Yaya. So we were watching TV. We saw, I don't know, BBC or CNN, that a Gambian journalist had been killed. So it came in the headline, just briefly in the headline, before the news in detail. So after, I was keen, because this is about my country. I was keen, who? Because by then, what I thought was, maybe it could be D.A. Jao, because these were the people following he and Data, but I never expect that it would be Data. Because DA, I think at the time, he was the GPU president. DA was the GPU president. And they were pursuing this media commission, he, Data, and Uncle Swaibu. So after, when the news in detail came, they announced that a Gambian journalist had been murdered, Data Haidara. No, that was a terrible day for me. I couldn't eat throughout the night. I have to even spend the night at my colleague's house, Ibrahim Yaya. He has to console me, at least to be calm. Because by then because what happened, 2 days before his murder, I phoned him from Egypt. I said, boss, I have done well in the course. I have passed all the subjects, but I'm coming in 2 days' time. He told me that if you come, there is a present waiting for you. This is what he told me when I phoned him. He said, there is a present waiting for you. But there was somebody whom you know that he will even pay you and double. He will pay you your salary or your freelance allowance and give you more than what he pays you. He was a generous guy. Because why I said he was, if you allow me counsel, why I was saying that he's a generous guy, Deda did a lot of good things. I could remember before the Kampama, there was a big problem at Kampama. You know, their structures was dilapidating and so forth. What he did, he raised funds for Kampama, and through Fateleku, I could remember it was at Atlantic Hotel. He raised funds after organizing that Fateleku with Usunjai and others, and after give the money to the Minister of Health to help Kampama. That shows Deda, apart from his journalistic work, he was generous, you know, to the Gambians. You know, he helps a lot. Yeah.
And you told us that he was part of the reason why you were in Egypt
Yes.
pursuing that course.
Yeah.
So after you heard that he had been killed, you said you had to spend the night at a friend's house because you didn't want to be by
Yeah, at the
yourself.
hotel, yeah.
What happened next? When did you come back to the Gambia?
No, I think I fly the next day because I was supposed to fly the next day. I flight, arrived here, I think it was very late, around 3 a.m. in the morning. When I don't even have time with my family, I called some members of the GPO, some of my seniors, and said, now, what is going on? He said, no, Deda was buried. Yes, he was buried. But Monday, I think it was a Monday, that we are going to organize a march, you know, at the arch, at least, and we will petition the authorities to tell us about the death of Deda. So, without even any rest, I joined the march at the arch 22nd. But funnily, what happened? When we reached at the arch 22nd, we find soldiers in combat form. What I mean in combat form, it was just like they were ready for battle. Because by then, Vincent Jatta was the army commander, you understand. We also found a lot of NIA officials who were also around, who later even, because there were T-shirts that, you know, we printed. So these T-shirts, the NIAs were also, some of them even were wearing our T-shirts, pretending to be journalists, working for radio stations. So some even, we don't even know them. So after, when we started the march, we went to the police. Nothing happens because the soldiers, after, nothing happens to us. So they were just stationed at the arch. And whilst we are going, before we left, there was a clash between some of my colleagues and the NIA because they recognized some of them, because as I told you earlier, most of my colleagues were arrested and they identified some of these guys. You know, whilst they were on detention, they know that these are not journalists. So they chased them out of the queue, and we started our march past and went to the police headquarters and to present our petition.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. You said that some of the people who were marching with you, the journalists, were actually NIA officials who were trying to pass themselves off as journalists.
Mixed with the journalists, yeah.
Indeed. And so they were identified by some of your colleagues. And what happened to them?
No,
These
after
NIA
they were taken out of the queue, and we know each other as journalists. So after we went and we were led by D.A. Jao, who was the president, and some of our doyens like Uncle Swaibo and Uncle Cherno.
Was anyone arrested at that point?
No.
Okay.
No, there was no arrest. We went to the police headquarters and present the petition to Landing Tatin Baji. He was the IGP by then. From there, we went to the Ministry of Interior. No, sorry, when we presented, and Tatin Baji told us that, yeah, it is good that we present our petition, so they will look at the petition and get back to the GPU. After that, we went to the Minister of Interior. I think by then, I don't know, Sambaba was the Minister of Interior. We also present the same petition to Sambaba.
I note that we still have 2 minutes, so I will just continue with my questions to the end, if that's fine with you, Mr. Chairman. So this was immediately after Data Haidara had been killed. Can you tell us about what happened a year later, the 1 year commemoration of his death?
Yeah, 1 year after his death, we invited the colleagues from the sub-region, at least to commemorate the death. So we had a conference at the Kairaba Beach Hotel, either Kairaba or Senegal. It was one of these hotels, I can't remember, that we had a conference there. After that, we invited the authorities, but the authorities never showed up. In the evening, we gathered and went to the spot where Deda was killed. So, but
where was that?
It was around the paramilitary headquarters in Kanifing. Around the paramilitary headquarters, where they are before the paramilitary headquarters.
Would that be somewhere around Jimpex?
Yes, around Jimpex. So we went there, but what happened actually, whilst we arrived at Jimpex, they were using these loud speakers telling us that not to enter. We don't have any authority to go to the place. But we were adamant, just coming nearer to them. But before reaching there, they stopped us. And one of our colleagues, Ramatullah Chare, was malhandled by the security officials.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, she was malhandled. Her recorder, I think, was seized, and she was not treated well, definitely.
Could you see what happened to her at that time?
No, later I saw Ramatullah, but she was malhandled anyway.
What I'm trying to understand is what you witnessed and what you were told.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's not what I was told. I was present when it happened, and I saw Ramatullah, they pulled her out of the crowd, saying that she was malhandled. I don't know how she was malhandled, but I know that she was malhandled.
What you saw were your colleagues pulling her out of the crowd after she had been manhandled?
Yes.
In order to take her somewhere safe,
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Did anything else happen during that march?
No, I think that was the end of it. They don't allow us to go to the site. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Fall. We will stop here and then resume after the break. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Fall. We will take a 30-minute break and come back at sharp noon. Meeting is adjourned.